Captain Tamin stared at the massive shape floating in the asteroid field. His four eyes blinked slowly as he tried to understand what he was seeing. The object was huge, much bigger than his salvage ship. It looked like a warship, but not like any warship he had ever seen before. "Run another scan," Tamin ordered his crew. His voice carried the authority of 20 years commanding salvage operations in the Kepler Nebula. "I want to know exactly what we're looking at." The bridge of the salvage vessel hummed with activity. Crew members from different species worked. At their stations, their various appendages dancing across control panels. The Kepler Nebula was known for its ancient wrecks and valuable metals, but this discovery was different. Dr. Haiwan looked up from her console. She was the only human. On the crew, a thin woman with short black hair and intelligent eyes. As the team's archaeologist, she studied old civilizations and their artifacts. "Captain, the metal composition is unlike anything in our database. The hull design suggests advanced engineering, but the style is completely unknown." Tamin's tail twitched with interest. His people, the Vorthons, had been exploring space for over 1,000 years. They had seen ships from every known civilization in the galaxy. "How old do you think it is?" "The energy readings are strange," reported the sensor officer, a young Zentari with blue-scaled skin. "There's no power signature, but the metal shows signs of recent activity, like it was powered down, not destroyed." Dr. Haiwan stood up and moved closer to the main viewer. The ship appeared to be wedged between two large asteroids, almost hidden from casual observation. Its hull was dark gray, covered in strange markings and what looked like weapon ports. Lots of weapon ports. "Captain, I need to get closer," Haiwan said. "Those markings on the hull, they look familiar, but I can't place them from this distance." Tamin considered the request. Salvage work was dangerous, especially with unknown vessels. Old ships sometimes had active defense systems or unstable reactors, but the potential discovery was too valuable to ignore. "Take us in slowly. Keep shields up and weapons ready." The salvage ship moved carefully through the asteroid field. As they got closer, the true size of the mysterious vessel became clear. It was over 3 kilometers long, with multiple gun decks and what appeared to be fighter bays. The design was sleek but deadly, like a sword made of metal and purpose. "Those aren't just weapon ports," whispered the tactical officer. "Those are massive cannon arrays. This thing could destroy our entire fleet." Dr. Haiwan pressed her face against the viewing port, trying to make out the markings on the hull. Suddenly her eyes went wide. "Captain, stop the ship right now." Tamin immediately ordered full stop. "What is it, Doctor?" "The writing on the hull. I can read some of it." Her voice was shaking. "It's in Old Earth Korean, the language my ancestors spoke before they joined the coalition." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about Earth and its people. Humans had been part of the coalition for 300 years, but their homeworld had been lost long ago. According to the history books, Earth had died from environmental collapse over 800 years ago. The surviving humans had scattered across the galaxy, becoming citizens of various coalition worlds. "Are you sure?" Tamin asked carefully. Haiwan nodded. "The ship's name, it says Indomitable, and there's more text, but it's partially covered by asteroid debris." Before anyone could respond, the sensor board lit up with alarms. The tactical officer's hands flew over his controls. "Captain, we have a problem. The ship, it's powering up." On the main screen, they watched in amazement as lights began appearing along the mysterious vessel's hull. Deep within the ship, something was waking up. Energy readings spiked as ancient systems came online after centuries of sleep. "All stop," Tamin ordered, though his ship was already motionless. "Shields to maximum. Send a message to Coalition Command. Tell them we've found something they need to know about." The lights on the alien ship grew brighter. Weapon systems that had been dark for hundreds of years began to move, tracking toward the salvage vessel. Point defense turrets rotated with smooth, deadly precision. "Captain, They're locking weapons onto us, the tactical officer reported, his voice tight. With fear. Don't move, Taemin commanded. Don't even breathe hard. We're not a threat to them. Dr. Haewon stared at the awakening giant. Her mind raced as she tried to understand what they had discovered. If this was really a human ship from Earth's lost era, it changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about human history. Suddenly, the communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in clear, authoritative tones, but the language was unknown to everyone except Haewon. The words were in Old Earth Korean, spoken with the accent of someone born centuries ago. Haewon's hands shook as she reached for the translation controls. He's asking who we are and why we're here. He wants to know our intentions. Respond carefully, Taemin ordered. Tell them we're peaceful salvage operators. We mean no harm. As Haewon translated and transmitted their response, the weapon systems on the massive ship remained locked on target. The silence stretched for long minutes. Then the voice spoke again, this time with more urgency. He's asking about Earth, Haewon translated. He wants to know the status of his homeworld and the human fleet. Taemin felt a chill run down his spine. What do we tell him? Before Haewon could answer, the communication channel opened again. This time, the voice spoke in heavily accented but understandable Coalition standard. This is Admiral Dongwoo of the United Earth Fleet, commanding officer of the battleship Indomitable. I repeat, state your purpose and update me on the current status of Earth and her colonies. The bridge crew looked at each other in shock. A human admiral, a United Earth Fleet, a battleship called Indomitable. None of these things were supposed to exist. According to every history book in the galaxy, Earth had died alone, and its people had spread across the stars as refugees. Taemin activated the communication system. Admiral Dongwoo, this is Captain Taemin of the Coalition salvage vessel Brightfinder. I'm afraid I have some difficult news to share with you about Earth and the current state of the galaxy. The weapon locks remained active as Admiral Dongwoo processed this information. When he spoke again, his voice was harder, more dangerous. Captain Taemin, you will come aboard my ship immediately. Bring your human crew member. We have much to discuss and very little time to do it. Dr. Haewon looked at her captain. She was the only human on the ship, possibly the only human who could communicate with this ancient admiral. The weight of history was settling on her shoulders. Captain, she said quietly, I think we just discovered that everything we know about human history is wrong. As the massive battleship Indomitable fully awakened from its long sleep, its sensors began scanning the surrounding space. What it found would change the galaxy forever. But for now, Admiral Dongwoo waited for answers about the fate of his people and his world. The salvage crew prepared for the most important first contact in galactic history, not knowing they had just awakened humanity's sleeping guardian. The docking bay of the Indomitable was unlike anything Captain Taemin had ever seen. The walls were made of some kind of advanced metal that seemed to absorb light, giving the entire space a dark, serious feeling. Automated systems guided their shuttle into position with precision that made Coalition technology look primitive. Dr. Haewon stepped out of the shuttle first, her legs shaking slightly. She had studied human history her entire life, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The air in the docking bay was clean and fresh, recycled by systems that had been running for centuries. The artificial gravity is perfect, Taemin observed, his four legs finding solid purchase on the deck plates. Most ships this old have gravity fluctuations. This ship isn't old, Haewon said quietly, looking around at the pristine condition of everything. It's been maintained, cared for, like someone was planning to wake up. A group of figures approached them from the far end of the docking bay. They were all human, dressed in military uniforms that Haewon recognized from her historical research. The uniforms were dark blue with silver trim, bearing symbols she had only seen in ancient databases. The leader was a tall man with graying hair and sharp eyes. He walked with the confident stride of someone used to command. Behind him came a woman with short black hair and the bearing of a professional soldier, followed by a younger man whose uniform bore engineering insignia. "I am Admiral Dong-Wu," the leader said in accented coalition standard. "This is Commander Su-Jin, my tactical officer, and Engineer Hyun-Woo, my chief of engineering. Welcome aboard the Indomitable." Tai-Min performed the formal coalition greeting, touching his forehead with his primary hand. "Admiral, I am Captain Tai-Min, and this is Dr. Hae-Won, our expedition archaeologist." Admiral Dong-Woo's eyes fixed on Hae-Won with intense interest. "You are human. How many of our people survive in this time?" Hae-Won took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been dreading. "Admiral, there are approximately 2 billion humans scattered across coalition space. We live on various worlds as citizens of different member species." "And Earth?" Admiral Dong-Woo asked. The silence stretched for several heartbeats. Hae-Won looked down at the deck plates. "Earth is gone, Admiral. The records say it died from environmental collapse 800 years ago. The survivors left before the end and joined the coalition as refugees." Admiral Dong-Woo's face went very still. Commander Su-Jin stepped closer to her commander, her hand moving instinctively toward her sidearm. Engineer Hyun-Woo closed his eyes and took a shaky breath. "That is not what happened," Admiral Dong-Woo said finally, his voice cold as space. "Earth did not die from environmental collapse. Earth was murdered." Captain Tai-Min felt his blood turn to ice. "What do you mean, murdered?" Admiral Dong-Woo gestured for them to follow him. "Come. There is much you need to understand, and very little time to explain it." They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The ship was enormous, big enough to house a small city. Along the way, they passed other humans emerging from what looked like medical bays. All of them wore the same military uniforms, and all of them looked like they had just woken up from a very long sleep. "Stasis pods," Engineer Hyun-Woo explained, noticing their stares. "We've been asleep for 800 years waiting for the signal to wake up." "What signal?" Dr. Hae-Won asked. "The return of our enemy," Commander Su-Jin replied grimly. They entered what was clearly the ship's briefing room. The walls were covered with star charts and tactical displays that showed star systems across the galaxy. Admiral Dong-Woo activated a holographic projector in the center of the room. "Dr. Hae-Won, what do your history books say about the end of Earth?" he asked. "That humanity destroyed their homeworld through pollution and war. That the survivors scattered to avoid extinction." Admiral Dong-Woo shook his head. A lie. A carefully constructed lie to hide the truth. He touched a control, and the hologram showed Earth as it once was, green and blue and beautiful. Earth was attacked by an enemy we called the Devourers. They were machines, artificial intelligences that consumed entire civilizations. The hologram changed, showing massive dark ships surrounding Earth. The planet's surface was being stripped away layer by layer, consumed by the attacking vessels. "The Devourers don't just destroy," Commander Su-Jin continued. "They absorb. They take everything, the planet's resources, the knowledge of its people, even the genetic material of every living thing. Then they move on to the next world, Captain." Tai-Min stared at the hologram in horror. "But why hide this? Why tell the galaxy that Earth died naturally?" "Because the truth would have caused panic," Admiral Dong-Woo explained. "The Devourers were unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced. They were older than any current civilization, and they had already consumed hundreds of species. We knew that if word got out, every species would either surrender immediately or fight alone and be destroyed piecemeal." The hologram shifted to show the final battle for Earth. Human ships fought desperately against the dark mechanical vessels, but they were clearly outmatched. The planet below was already mostly consumed. "We fought for 6 months," Engineer Hyun-Woo said quietly. "Every ship, every space station, every military installation. We threw everything we had at them. It wasn't enough. So how did you escape? Dr. Haywan asked. We didn't escape, Admiral Dongwu corrected. We bought time. The evacuation ships carried not just refugees, but also our most advanced technology and military personnel in stasis. We scattered them across the galaxy with orders to integrate into existing civilizations and wait. Wait for what, Commander? Sujin's smile was cold and sharp. For the Devourers to return. Because they always return. They move in cycles, consuming everything in their path, then going dormant for centuries while they process what they've taken. But they always come back for more. Admiral Dongwu touched another control, and the hologram showed a timeline spanning 800 years. According to our calculations, they should be returning soon. That's why the Indomitable was placed. Here, in deep stasis, with automated systems monitoring long-range space. The sensors detected Devourer scout probes 3 days ago, Engineer Hyunwoo added. That's what triggered our awakening. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Captain Taemin's tail was twitching rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his people. You're saying that the Coalition is about to face an enemy that destroyed Earth, an enemy that the Coalition cannot defeat with current technology, Admiral Dongwu confirmed. The Devourers have had 800 years to grow stronger. Their main fleet will arrive within months. Dr. Haywan had been quiet during the explanation, but now she looked up with determination in her eyes. What do you need us to do? First, we need to contact the other sleeper ships, Commander Sujin said. The Indomitable was just one of dozens scattered across the galaxy. Each one carries advanced human technology and trained military personnel. Second, we need to warn the Coalition, Admiral Dongwu continued. But we must be careful how we do it. Panic will help no one. And third, Captain Taemin asked. Admiral Dongwu's expression became grim. Third, we need to prepare the galaxy for a war unlike anything it has ever seen. The Devourers don't negotiate. They don't retreat. They consume everything or they are destroyed. There is no middle ground. Engineer Hyunwoo activated another display showing the technical specifications of the Indomitable. The numbers were staggering. Weapons that could crack planets, shields that could withstand star-level energy, engines that could cross the galaxy in months instead of years. The humans who scattered after Earth's fall kept the secret, he explained. But they also kept preparing. Every human family carries genetic markers that will activate dormant technology. Every human community has hidden resources. We've been planning for this day for 8 centuries. Dr. Haywan stared at the display, understanding flooding through her. That's why human settlements are always near strategic locations. Why humans always volunteer for dangerous assignments. Why we're always studying military history and engineering. Your people have been unconsciously preparing for war their entire lives, Admiral Dongwu confirmed, and now it's time to remember who you really are. As if summoned by his words, more humans began entering the briefing room. Dr. Young Mi, the ship's medical officer, reported that all stasis pods were successfully activated. The crew of the Indomitable was awake and ready for duty. Captain Taemin, Admiral Dongwu said formally, will you carry a message to Coalition Command? Tell them that humanity requests an immediate meeting with the High Council. Tell them, we have information about a threat to galactic civilization. And if they ask for proof? Taemin asked. Admiral Dongwu's smile was neither warm nor friendly. Tell them that proof is coming whether they want it or not. The Coalition High Council chamber on Nexus Prime had never seen anything like it. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated areas, all staring at the holographic projection in the center of the room. The image showed the Indomitable, slowly moving through space toward the council meeting point. General Jae-sung, the Coalition's top military strategist, stood at his console reviewing sensor data. His people, the Nexari, were known for their analytical minds and careful planning. What he was seeing made no sense according to everything he knew about military technology. "The power readings are impossible," he reported to the council. "That single ship generates more energy than our entire 7th Fleet, and the weapons signatures—" He paused, checking his instruments again. "The weapons signatures suggest firepower equivalent to a planetary bombardment force." Admiral Boram, the Zentari who commanded the Coalition fleet, leaned forward in her chair. Her blue scales shifted color with agitation. "Are we certain this ship is human? The design philosophy is completely different from anything we've seen before." Dr. Haywan stood at the witness podium, still trying to process everything she had learned aboard the Indomitable. "Admiral, I verified the language, the cultural markers, and the genetic signatures of the crew. They are definitely human, but they're humans from a technological era we never knew existed." The council chamber erupted in whispered conversations as species representatives discussed this revelation among themselves. The idea that humans had once possessed such advanced technology challenged everything they thought they knew about galactic history. "Dr. Haywan," called out Counselor Vex, a tall insectoid representative, "you claim these humans say Earth was destroyed by an enemy called the Devourers. Yet our historical records show no evidence of such a species." "That's because they're not from this galaxy originally," came a new voice from the chamber's entrance. Everyone turned to see Admiral Dong Wu entering, flanked by Commander Su Jin and a woman they hadn't met before. The new arrival wore a flight suit with pilot's insignia and moved with the confident grace of someone comfortable in dangerous situations. "I am Captain Yunji," the pilot announced, "and Admiral Dong Wu has authorized me to provide the proof you require." General Jae Sung's tactical mind immediately focused on the threat assessment. "Admiral Dong Wu, our sensors show your ship is armed with weapons we don't understand. Before we proceed, we need assurance that you mean no harm to Coalition forces." Admiral Dong Wu nodded respectfully. "General, we have no desire to fight the Coalition, but you asked for proof of our capabilities and the threat we face. Captain Yun-ji will provide both." Captain Yun-ji activated a portable holographic projector. "With the Council's permission, we request access to the Kepler test range. We will demonstrate our technology against the old dreadnought hulks you use for weapons testing." Admiral Boram's scales shifted to a deep blue, indicating suspicion. "The test range contains 3 dreadnought-class targets. Each one is heavily armored and designed to withstand massive amounts of damage. What exactly do you plan to do?" "Destroy them," Captain Yun-ji said simply. "All 3, in under 30 seconds. The council chamber fell completely silent. The dreadnought hulks at Kepler test range were each over 2 kilometers long and built to Coalition military specifications. It would take an entire battle group, hours of concentrated fire to destroy just one of them. "That's impossible," Admiral Boram said flatly. "Would you like to place a wager on that?" Admiral Dongwu asked with a slight smile. General Jae Sung studied the humans carefully. Their confidence wasn't the bravado of inexperienced warriors. It was the calm certainty of professionals who knew exactly what they were capable of. "Very well. We'll escort you to the test range. But Admiral, if this is some kind of trick..." "General, after what you see today, you'll understand why tricks are unnecessary," Commander Su Jin replied. The journey to Kepler test range took 6 hours. The Indomitable moved through space with an elegance that seemed to defy physics. Coalition. Escort ships struggled to keep pace with the human vessel, even though their sensors showed the Indomitable was operating at minimal power. Technician Min Ho, the Indomitable's weapons specialist, worked at his station preparing the demonstration. His console showed weapon systems that the Coalition observers couldn't even identify, let alone understand. "Target analysis complete," Min Ho reported to Admiral Dong Wu. 3 dreadnought hulks, each approximately 2.3 kilometers in length. Armor thickness suggests standard Coalition military construction. Estimated time to complete destruction, 22 seconds. Very efficient, Admiral Dongwu commented. Captain Yunji, are your fighters ready? Standing by, Admiral. Do you want me to show them the precision capabilities as well? Not yet. Let's start with the basic demonstration. The Coalition observers watched from their command ship as the Indomitable approached the test range. The three dreadnought hulks floated in space like metal mountains, scarred from years of weapons testing, but still essentially intact. General Jae Sung monitored the engagement from multiple sensor arrays. Admiral Dongwu, whenever you're ready. Technician, Minho, you may fire when ready. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations. The Indomitable didn't launch missiles or fire conventional energy weapons. Instead, 3 sections of its hull opened to reveal weapons that looked more like geometric sculptures than military hardware. The weapons fired once each. The energy beams that emerged were unlike anything in Coalition technology, not the crude plasma bolts or laser arrays they were familiar with, but focused streams of something that seemed to bend space itself around their targets. The first dreadnought hull simply vanished. One moment it was there, a massive structure of metal and armor. The next moment, there was empty space and a slowly expanding cloud of particles. The second target lasted slightly longer, long enough for the Coalition observers to see the beam, cutting through the armor like it wasn't there. The hull split apart in perfect geometric sections, before those sections also dissolved into component atoms. The third dreadnought survived almost 10 seconds, giving General Jae Sung time to see how the weapon worked. The beam didn't just destroy the target, it seemed to erase it from existence, breaking down the molecular bonds that held the matter together. Time to completion, 22 seconds as predicted, Technician Minho reported calmly. The Coalition command ship's bridge was completely silent. Admiral Boram stared at the empty space where 3 massive warships had existed moments before. General Jae Sung checked and rechecked his sensors, unable to believe what he had witnessed. How? Admiral Boram finally asked. Molecular disintegration. Beams, Captain Yunji explained. We've had them for about 600 years. They're standard equipment on all human military vessels. Standard equipment? General Jae Sung repeated weakly. For fighting the Devourers, you need weapons that can completely destroy your target, Admiral Dongwu explained. Conventional weapons just give them more material to absorb and use against you. Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the Coalition command ship. The sensor operator, a young Zentari with pale blue scales, looked up from his console with terror in his eyes. Admiral, we have an unidentified contact approaching the system. The energy signature is... It's massive. Bigger than anything in our database. Admiral Dongwu was at the sensor station instantly, his calm demeanor replaced by focused intensity. Show me. The holographic display revealed something that made even the hardened human admiral pause. It was a ship, but calling it a ship was like calling a mountain a pebble. The vessel was over 20 kilometers long, its hull black as the void between stars. Energy readings showed power generation capabilities that dwarfed even the Indomitable. Devourer. Scout ship, Commander Sujin said grimly. They found us faster than we expected. The Coalition observers watched in growing horror as the alien vessel moved through space with predatory grace. It ignored the Coalition ships entirely, focusing its attention on the Indomitable. All Coalition vessels retreat to minimum safe. Distance, Admiral Dongwu ordered. Captain Unji, launch all fighters. Technician Minho, bring all weapons online. This is not a drill. Admiral, you can't fight that thing alone, Admiral Boram protested. It's too big. Admiral Boram, with respect, you have no idea what we're capable of, Admiral Dongwu replied. But you're about to learn. The Devourer scout ship opened fire first, launching weapons that tore through space like miniature black holes. Indomitable's shields flared to life, absorbing impacts that should have destroyed any known vessel. What followed was a battle unlike anything the Coalition had ever witnessed. The human ship moved through space like a living thing, dodging attacks that bent reality around them while returning fire with weapons that carved chunks from the enemy's hull. Captain Yunji's fighter squadron danced around the massive enemy vessel, their small ships moving so fast they appeared as streaks of light. Their weapons seemed tiny compared to the capital ship engagement, but each hit was precisely placed to cause maximum damage to critical systems. Across the galaxy, ancient signals began to pulse through space. Dr. Kyung-ho watched his instruments with growing excitement as automated systems that had been dormant for 8 centuries suddenly came to life. The laboratory aboard the Indomitable hummed with activity as he monitored the awakening process. "Admiral Dong-woo, Project Phoenix is proceeding as planned," he reported over the communication system. 43 sleeper ships have responded to the activation signal. The second, "Fleet is waking up." In the depths of space near the Andorian Nebula, Admiral Subin felt the familiar sensation of stasis ending. Her body fought against 800 years of artificial sleep as automated medical systems brought her back to full consciousness. Around her, the crew of the dreadnought Relentless underwent the same process. "Status report," she commanded, as soon as her voice worked properly. "All systems nominal, Admiral," came the response from her tactical officer. "We received the Phoenix signal 18 hours ago. The ship has been running full diagnostics and preparing for immediate deployment." Admiral Subin reviewed the data streaming across her command console. The galaxy had changed significantly during their long sleep, but the mission remained the same. "Signal the fleet. All ships are to report readiness status within the hour." On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Wu Jin's stealth ship Silent Thunder emerged from its hiding place inside a hollow asteroid. The vessel was smaller than the massive dreadnoughts, but it carried technology that made it virtually invisible to conventional sensors. Its mission had been reconnaissance and deep strike operations against Devourer forces. "Captain, we're receiving coded transmissions from multiple human vessels," reported his communications officer. "The fleet is awakening as planned." "Captain." Wu Jin studied the tactical display, showing ship positions across known space. "Excellent. Begin Phase 2 of the Phoenix Protocol. Contact all human communities and activate their dormant equipment. It's time for our people to remember who they really are." Back on Nexus Prime, the Coalition High Council was in emergency session. The demonstration at Kepler Test Range had shaken their understanding of military power, but the news that dozens more human warships were appearing across the galaxy was causing outright panic. 43 confirmed contacts, General Jae Sung reported to the assembled representatives. Each one matches or exceeds the power signature of the Indomitable, and they're not hiding anymore. Admiral Bo-Ram's scales had turned a deep purple, indicating extreme stress. "They're positioning themselves at strategic points throughout Coalition space. If they wanted to conquer us, we'd be helpless to stop them." Dr. Haewon stood at the council podium, trying to maintain order. "Honored representatives, Admiral Dong-woo has assured us that human intentions remain peaceful. They're preparing defensive positions to protect Coalition worlds from the Devourer threat." "How do we know we can trust them?" demanded Counselor Vex. "These humans have been lying to us for 800 years. How do we know this isn't an invasion disguised as protection?" Before Dr. Haewon could respond, new information came flooding in from across the galaxy. Human communities that had seemed ordinary for generations were suddenly revealing advanced technology and military training. Families who had worked as farmers and merchants were producing weapons and equipment that surpassed anything the Coalition had ever seen. Commander Ye-jun had spent 300 years living as a simple freight hauler on the trade routes between Coalition worlds. His cargo ship had transported goods and passengers without incident, giving no sign of its true nature. But when the Phoenix signal reached him, everything changed. Hidden compartments throughout his vessel opened to reveal military hardware and communication equipment. His cargo bay transformed into a command center capable of coordinating fleet operations across multiple star systems. Most importantly, his ship's true nature was revealed. It wasn't a freight hauler at all, but a mobile command platform designed to support human military operations. "This is Commander Ye-jun to all Phoenix assets in Sector 7, he transmitted on frequencies that had been silent for centuries. "Report status and begin coordination with local coalition forces. The war is coming. On the human colony world of New Seoul, families gathered in community centers that suddenly revealed themselves to be military briefing rooms. Children who had grown up thinking they were ordinary farmers learned that their parents had been training them in advanced tactical thinking and combat techniques their entire lives. Dr. Sun Hee, a tactical analyst who had been studying coalition military doctrine for decades, stood before a room full of awakening humans. "Ladies and gentlemen, everything you thought you knew about yourselves is about to change. You are not refugees. You are not civilians. You are the descendants of Earth's finest military minds, and you have been preparing for this war your entire lives." The transformation was remarkable. Within hours, human communities across the galaxy were producing military equipment, organizing defense forces, and establishing communication networks. Agricultural stations revealed themselves to be weapons manufacturing facilities. Research institutes began producing technologies that the Coalition had never imagined possible. Back aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Dong-woo coordinated the massive awakening process. His command center had become the nerve center for a military operation spanning half the galaxy. Ships that had been hidden for centuries were revealing themselves and taking up battle positions. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from all sectors," Commander Su-jin announced. "The Second Fleet under Admiral Su-bin is fully operational. Captain Woo-jin's stealth forces are in position. Local human communities are activated and beginning defensive preparations." "Excellent," Admiral Dong-woo replied. "What about coalition cooperation?" "Mixed results," Dr. Hae-won reported from her liaison station. "Some worlds are welcoming our assistance. Others are demanding that we leave their space immediately. The High Council is debating whether to declare us a threat to galactic security." Admiral Dong-woo wasn't surprised. "It's natural for them to be suspicious. We've revealed that we've been deceiving them for 8 centuries. But they'll understand once the Devourers arrive." Engineer Hyun-woo looked up from his technical station. "Admiral, we're detecting long-range scanner sweeps from multiple directions. The Devourers are conducting systematic searches of this entire region of space." "How long do we have?" "Based on their current search pattern, the main Devourer fleet will arrive in approximately 3 months. Maybe less if they detect our activity." The command center fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. 3 months to prepare an entire galaxy for a war against an enemy that had already destroyed Earth. Admiral Su-bin's face appeared on the main communication screen. "Admiral Dong-woo, the Second Fleet is requesting permission to begin advanced preparations. We want to start retrofitting coalition worlds with defensive systems." "Permission granted," Admiral Dong-woo replied. "But be diplomatic about it. We need their cooperation, not their fear." Captain Woo-jin's image joined the conference from his stealth ship. "Admiral, my reconnaissance teams are reporting increased Devourer scout activity throughout the outer systems. They're definitely searching for something specific." "They're searching for us," Admiral Dong-woo confirmed. "The destruction of their scout ship at Kepler alerted them that humans are active again. They'll want to eliminate us before we can organize effective resistance." Dr. Kyung-ho had been monitoring biological data from awakening human communities across the galaxy. "Admiral, the genetic activation protocols are working better than expected. Humans who never knew about their military heritage are displaying tactical knowledge and technical skills that should take years to develop. That's the beauty of genetic memory encoding," Admiral Dong-woo explained. "Every human carries the accumulated military knowledge of Earth's finest strategists. The Phoenix Protocol doesn't just wake up our ships, it wakes up our people's true potential. On worlds throughout Coalition space, the transformation continued. Human families who had seemed ordinary were revealing themselves to be expert tacticians, engineers, and warriors. Children who had played simple games discovered that those games had actually been training exercises for advanced military operations. The coalition government was struggling to understand what was happening. Reports flooded in from across their territory describing humans who seemed to have transformed overnight from peaceful citizens into highly trained military personnel. "This changes everything," General Jae-sung told the High Council. "We're not dealing with refugees who developed advanced technology. We're dealing with a military force that has been embedded in our society for 8 centuries, waiting for activation." Admiral Bo-ram studied the tactical reports from across Coalition space. "The question is, are they here to protect us or conquer us?" Dr. Hae-won had been monitoring human communications and was beginning to understand the scope of what they faced. "Honored representatives, based on what I've observed, I believe they're here to save us. But the methods they'll use to do it may be more extreme than we're comfortable with." As if to prove her point, Admiral Subin transmitted new orders to all human forces. The Devourer Advance Fleet arrived 2 weeks early, emerging from hyperspace like a plague of metal locusts. Fleet Admiral In-soo watched from the bridge of his flagship as 300 enemy vessels poured into the Kepler system, each one larger than anything the Coalition had ever built. "All Coalition forces, this is Fleet Admiral In-soo," he transmitted on all frequencies. "Execute Defensive Plan Omega. All civilian vessels are to retreat to minimum safe distance immediately." The Coalition had spent 3 months preparing for this moment, but nothing could have prepared them for the reality of facing the Devourers in battle. Their ships were enormous, dark constructs that seemed to absorb light itself. They moved through space with predatory grace, their sensors sweeping across every Coalition vessel like the gaze of hungry predators. Captain Hyo-jin commanded the experimental ship Harmony, a vessel that combined human technology with Coalition engineering. Her mixed crew of humans and Coalition species had trained together for weeks, but theory was very different from practice. "Captain, the Devourers are ignoring standard challenge protocols," reported her Zentari tactical officer. "They're moving directly toward inhabited worlds without any attempt at communication." "That's because they don't communicate," explained Commander Jin-woo, the human ground forces commander who was aboard to coordinate planetary defense. "Devourers don't negotiate. They consume everything or they're destroyed. There's no middle ground." The first exchange of fire demonstrated the vast gap between Coalition and Devourer technology. Coalition plasma cannons and missile arrays struck the enemy ships with impressive displays of energy. But the Devourer vessels shrugged off the attacks like insects ignoring raindrops. "Our weapons aren't even scratching their armor," Admiral Bo-ram reported from her command ship. "Coalition forces, retreat to secondary positions and allow human forces to engage." Admiral Subin's Second Fleet moved forward to meet the Devourer advance. Her ships were smaller than the enemy vessels, but they moved with lethal efficiency. When the human ships opened fire, the results were dramatically different. "Human weapons are effective," Dr. Sun-hee observed from her analysis station. "Their molecular disintegration beams are cutting through Devourer armor like it's not there." But the Devourers were not defenseless. Their return fire was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Energy weapons that could crack planets struck the human ships, testing shields that had been designed to withstand such attacks. The battle was brutal and immediate. Coalition ships that tried to engage were destroyed within minutes, their crews vaporized before they could even understand what was happening. Human vessels lasted longer, but even their advanced technology was being pushed to its limits. "Fleet Admiral, we're losing ships faster than projected," Admiral Subin reported from the Relentless. "The Devourers have improved their technology during the 800 years since Earth." "Understood. Fleet Admiral In-Su replied grimly. All human forces, you are authorized to use any means necessary to stop the enemy advance. I repeat, any means necessary. Captain Hyojin understood what that authorization meant. She had read the classified reports about Earth's final battle. She knew what humans were capable of when survival was at stake. All coalition personnel, evacuate to emergency pods, she ordered her mixed crew. What we're about to do is not something non-humans should witness. The Zentari tactical officer looked confused. Captain, we're in the middle of a battle. We can't abandon our posts. Commander Jin Woo, explain to them, Captain Hyojin said simply. Jin Woo's expression was grim as he addressed the coalition crew members. My friends, humans fight differently than other species. We have no limits when it comes to protecting what we care about. What you're about to see may disturb you, but it's necessary for our survival. Across the human fleet, similar conversations were taking place. Coalition observers were being evacuated or isolated as human crews prepared to reveal the true nature of their warfare. The change was immediate and terrifying. Human ships that had been fighting defensively suddenly went on the attack with a ferocity that shocked even the Devourers. Ships deliberately rammed into enemy vessels, their crews sacrificing themselves to create breaches in Devourer armor that other ships could exploit. Captain Wu Jin's stealth ship, Silent Thunder, appeared, directly inside the formation of enemy vessels, having somehow passed through their shields undetected. The small ship's weapons fired directly into the engine cores of 3 Devourer ships before the Silent Thunder was destroyed by return fire. Ramming attack successful, came the calm report from another human captain, whose ship was heading directly toward a Devourer flagship. Estimate 30 seconds to impact. It has been an honor serving with you all. The coalition observers watched in horror as human after human made the ultimate sacrifice, using their ships as weapons when conventional tactics failed. But the strategy was working. Devourer ships were being destroyed or disabled at an increasing rate. Fleet Admiral In-Su made the hardest decision of his military career. All ships, prepare planet crackers for immediate deployment. Target the Devourer staging area in the asteroid belt. Dr. Sun He had been monitoring the battle from the relative safety of a coalition observation ship. What are planet crackers? She asked Admiral Bo-Ram. Weapons that can destroy entire worlds, Admiral Bo-Ram replied, her scales turning pale with shock. They're supposed to be theoretical. No species has ever actually built them. Humans built them 800 years ago, Dr. Sun He corrected. They used them during Earth's final battle. The planet crackers were launched from hidden positions throughout the system. They looked like simple missiles, but they carried technology that could destabilize the gravitational bonds holding matter together. When they reached their targets, entire asteroids simply ceased to exist, taking the Devourer ships hiding among them out of existence as well. The tide of battle was turning, but the cost was devastating. Nearly half the human fleet had been destroyed or crippled. Thousands of human crew members had died in deliberate sacrifice attacks. The survivors fought on with mechanical precision, showing no emotion even as their comrades died around them. This is how humans fight, Commander Jin Woo explained to the horrified coalition observers. We accept casualties that other species consider unthinkable because we understand that some things are worth any price. Captain Hyojin's ship Harmony had survived the initial exchange, but it was badly damaged. Her human crew members continued to operate their stations even with severe injuries, their training overriding their pain. Captain, we're detecting a massive energy buildup from the largest Devourer ship, her tactical officer reported. It appears to be preparing some kind of superweapon. Estimated target? Captain Hyojin asked. The inhabited world of Kepler Prime. Population, 4 billion coalition citizens. Captain Hyojin didn't hesitate. Engineering, prepare the ship. For overload sequence, we're going to ram that flagship before it can fire. Captain, the overload will destroy us and everything within 50 kilometers, her engineer warned. Better us than 4 billion innocent people, Captain Hyojin replied. All hands prepare for final maneuver. But before the Harmony could begin its suicide run, Fleet Admiral Insu's flagship moved between the Devourer vessel and its target. The massive human ship was already showing signs of critical damage, but its weapons were still operational. All ships, this is Fleet Admiral Insu. I'm initiating close-range engagement with the enemy flagship. Do not approach within 100 kilometers of my position. What followed was a point-blank duel between two massive warships. The human flagship traded shot for shot with the Devourer vessel, both ships tearing chunks from each other's hulls. The Devourer ship was larger and more heavily armed, but the human ship had something the enemy lacked, a crew willing to die for their cause. Fleet Admiral, your ship is critically damaged, Admiral Subin transmitted. Evacuate immediately. Negative. Fleet Admiral Insu replied calmly. The enemy flagship must not be allowed to target civilian populations. Continue the mission without me. The duel ended when both ships exploded simultaneously, their destruction creating a miniature star that could be seen from across the system. The Devourer advance fleet, leaderless and heavily damaged, began to retreat toward the outer system. The battle was won, but the cost had been terrible. Over half the human fleet was gone, along with thousands of trained personnel who could never be replaced. The surviving coalition forces looked at their human allies with a mixture of awe and terror. Is this how all human battles end? Admiral Boram asked Dr. Sun He. Only the important ones, Dr. Sun He replied quietly. This was just the advance fleet. The main Devourer force will be here in weeks, and it will be 10 times larger. As rescue operations began across the battlefield, the galaxy started to understand what they were really facing. The Devourers were a threat that required not just advanced technology, but a level of sacrifice that most species couldn't comprehend. And humanity had been preparing for this moment for 800 years, training themselves to pay any price for survival. The main Devourer fleet arrived like a storm of metal and hunger, emerging from hyperspace in formations that stretched across 3 star systems. Admiral Dongwu stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Eternal Vigilance, watching as sensor readings showed over 3,000 enemy vessels moving toward Coalition space. Fleet status report, he commanded. Commander Seok Jin, captain of the Eternal Vigilance, reviewed the tactical display. All human fleets are in position across the defensive line. Coalition forces have been integrated into our command structure as requested. Total Allied vessel count, 800 ships. The numbers were not encouraging. Even with every human ship awakened and every coalition vessel that could fight, they were outnumbered nearly 4-1. But Admiral Dongwu had not survived. The destruction of Earth by giving up when faced with impossible odds. Signal all fleet commanders, he ordered. Operation Final Stand is now in effect. All ships are to engage the enemy according to their assigned sectors. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We're fighting for every species in this galaxy. President Nari, the newly elected human civilian leader, watched the deployment from the command center on Nexus Prime. She had been a child when her family fled Earth's destruction, spending her entire life believing her people were refugees. Learning the truth about humanity's military heritage had been shocking, but accepting leadership during the galaxy's greatest crisis had been even more challenging. Madam President, Dr. Heywan reported from her liaison station, Coalition. Representatives are requesting final confirmation that human forces will respect civilian evacuation zones. Tell them that protecting innocent life is our primary objective, President Nari replied. But also remind them that if we lose this battle, there won't be any civilians left to protect. The first phase of the battle began in the outer systems, where Captain Wu Jin's stealth ships had been waiting in ambush. His vessels appeared throughout the Devourer formation like deadly ghosts, striking at command ships and supply vessels before vanishing again into the darkness. Stealth attack successful, Captain Wu Jin reported. Enemy formation disrupted. Estimate 20% reduction in their coordination capabilities. But the Devourers adapted quickly. Their ships began moving in smaller, more independent groups that were harder to ambush. Worse, they deployed weapons that could detect stealth technology, forcing the human reconnaissance forces to retreat. Phase 1 complete, Admiral Dongwu announced. All ships, move to Phase 2 positions. Prepare for direct engagement. The second phase was a massive fleet action involving hundreds of ships from both sides. Coalition vessels fought alongside human ships in combined formations that had been practiced for months. The mixing of technologies and tactics created capabilities that neither side could achieve alone. Admiral Su Bin commanded the left flank from her flagship, Relentless. Her human crews worked seamlessly with coalition personnel, their genetic training allowing them to coordinate with alien species as if they had been fighting together for years. Combined formation effectiveness is exceeding projections, she reported. Coalition energy shields are proving highly compatible with human weapon systems. On the right flank, Commander Ye Jun led a mixed force of human ground support ships and coalition assault vessels. His mission was to protect the inhabited worlds while the main fleet engaged the enemy's primary force. Commander Devourer landing forces are approaching Kepler Prime, his tactical officer warned. They're attempting to establish ground-based absorption facilities? Not on my watch, Commander Ye Jun replied grimly. All ground forces, prepare for planetary assault operations. We're going down there to stop them personally. The battle for Kepler Prime became a symbol of the new cooperation between human and coalition forces. Human soldiers fought alongside Zentari warriors and Vorthan engineers, their combined abilities proving more effective than anyone had expected. Dr. Sun He analyzed the battle data from her command post, tracking patterns in the Devourer attacks that revealed their strategic thinking. Admiral Dongwu, I'm detecting a significant weakness in their formation. They're concentrating their largest ships in the center, but that's making them vulnerable to coordinated strikes. Explain, Admiral Dongwu requested. If we can create a breakthrough in their flanks and attack their center from multiple directions simultaneously, their size advantage becomes a disadvantage. They won't be able to maneuver effectively. Admiral Dongwu studied the tactical display, seeing the pattern Dr. Sun He had identified. All fleet commanders prepare for convergence attack. Target the enemy center formation. Execute in 30 minutes. The convergence attack was the most complex military operation the galaxy had ever seen. Ships from dozens of different species, using technologies that had been separate for millennia, coordinated their movements with precision that should have been impossible. Human ships provided the breakthrough power with their molecular disintegration weapons. Coalition vessels followed up with sustained bombardments that exploited the gaps. The combined assault tore through the Devourer Center formation like a blade through fabric. Enemy flagship identified, Commander Seok Jin reported. It's the largest vessel in their fleet, estimated length 35 kilometers. Admiral Dongwu smiled grimly. Signal the fleet. All available ships are to converge on the enemy flagship. It's time to cut the head off this monster. The assault on the Devourer flagship became the stuff of legends. Hundreds of Allied ships attacked the massive enemy vessel from every angle, their weapons carving away layers of armor and internal structure. But the flagship fought back with weapons that could destroy entire moons. Captain Hyo Jin's rebuilt ship, Harmony, led a squadron of mixed human and coalition vessels in a direct assault on the flagship's command section. All ships coordinate your attacks. We need to penetrate their central core simultaneously. The battle was fierce and costly. Ships were destroyed by the dozens as they pressed their attack against the massive enemy vessel. But slowly, steadily, the Allied forces wore down the flagship's defenses. Admiral, the enemy flagship is showing critical damage, Dr. Sun He reported. But they're initiating some kind of self-destruction sequence. Estimated blast radius? Admiral Dongwu asked. If they detonate their core, it will destroy everything within 100 kilometers. That includes most of our attacking fleet. Admiral Dongwu made the decision that would define his legacy. All ships, maximum retreat. I'm taking the Eternal Vigilance in for close-range engagement. We'll contain the explosion. Admiral, that's suicide. Commander Seok Jin protested. No, Admiral Dongwu replied calmly. That's victory. But before the Eternal Vigilance could begin its final approach, something unexpected happened. Coalition. Ships throughout the fleet began moving toward the enemy flagship instead of retreating. "This is Admiral Bo-Ram," came the transmission from the Coalition fleet commander. If Admiral Dongwu thinks we're going to let him sacrifice himself alone, he's forgotten what it means to have allies. Ships from every Coalition species joined the final assault on the Devourer flagship. Together, they created a combined shield formation that contained the massive explosion when the enemy vessel finally detonated. The blast was enormous, but the combined fleet survived. When the battle ended, the Devourer fleet was broken and scattered. Some ships escaped into hyperspace, but their ability to threaten the galaxy was ended. The Allied forces had won, but the cost had been severe. Final casualty reports, President Nari requested from the command center. 40% of human forces destroyed or disabled, Dr. Hei Wan reported. Coalition losses are similar, but the Devourer threat has been eliminated for at least several centuries. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to rebuild under a new structure. The old Coalition government had proven inadequate for dealing with existential threats. In its place, the Terran Alliance was formed with humanity providing military, leadership, and other species contributing their unique capabilities. Admiral Dongwu addressed the galaxy from the rebuilt Nexus Prime. For 800 years, humanity carried the burden of preparing for this war. We sacrificed our homeworld, our open existence, and thousands of lives to ensure that when the Devourers returned, we would be ready. His image was broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy as he continued. But we did not fight alone. We fought alongside species who chose courage over fear, unity over division. The Terran Alliance represents not human dominance, but a new way of thinking about galactic civilization. President Nari stood beside him as he concluded. We return not as conquerors, but as guardians. Not as rulers, but as protectors. The darkness that consumed Earth will never take another world. This we swear. The new alliance began immediately. Human military technology was shared with all member species, while Coalition scientific and cultural knowledge enhanced human capabilities. Joint colonies were established throughout the galaxy, with humans and aliens working together as equals. Dr. Sun He was appointed as the first director of strategic analysis for the Terran Alliance. Her job was to monitor the galaxy for threats and ensure that never again would any species face extinction alone.